Namaste. We will discuss Raasleela, its history, development and relationship to Kathak. Now that which is anchored on Ras is Raas, and Leela refers to various exploits, in this context of Krishna. Now we have studied Ras in detail and we know that it deals with feelings, sentiments, moods. In Raasleela, the dominant mood is Madhura Bhakti, which is close to Shringar, but the end of Madhur Bhakti is not just pure romance but union with the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavat, the Vishnu Puran, the Harivams and even the Brahma Vaivarta Puran, we have descriptions of Ras dance, which is referred to as Ras and Ras Krida. It is said that Krishna, in a desire to enjoy his creation, wanted to dance with all the gopis. The gopis were enamored with Krishna, and in their heart of hearts they always desired Krishna as their husband. Although each of them had a family of their own and were married, had children, but in their innermost mind they wanted Krishna for themselves. Krishna knew this. Now Ras takes place during the full moon night of Sharat, which is during the retreating monsoon season. The episode begins like this, that Krishna in the middle of the night starts playing the flute, and each gopi, or the women of Braj, each gopi hears the sound of the flute. She is totally lost in the sound, in the beauty of the sound, and in thinking about Krishna. And whatever she is doing, some maybe are doing household chores, others are speaking to their family members, others maybe are getting ready for the evening, adorning themselves. But each one stops suddenly in the middle of their work, hearing the sound of the flute. Then they leave everything and go out in search of Krishna. So there is Krishna playing the flute, and here all the gopis have come out to meet him. Now Krishna, in a way, was naughty, and he often made fun of people. So he says, how is it that you women, who all are respectable women belonging to certain households, how is it that you have come out in the middle of the night? The gopis explain that they lead respectable lives, but their innermost being is dedicated to Krishna. Krishna then starts playing the flute, and all of them go towards the river Yamuna. There, on the banks of the Yamuna, a beautiful circle or Ras Mandal is formed. Krishna starts dancing with all the gopis. The gopis are so absorbed in their passion for Krishna that each one feels that Krishna is dancing with her. So one gopi, one Krishna. Krishna as if divides his being into a number of persons so that each gopi can have one Krishna to herself. This dance goes on. Everyone is enjoying themselves. But in the middle of the dance, the gopis are filled with pride because Krishna now belongs to them. And as soon as Krishna senses this pride, he leaves the place. This is an important doctrine in Vaishnavism, that when you come to your God, you should have no sense of pride. You should not be vain. And so Krishna, realizing that the gopis are now proud, leaves. Suddenly, in the middle of the dance, the gopis realize that Krishna is not there, and they start crying. They are so sad, they don't know what to do. So, in order to show their devotion for Krishna and also to have something to do during that time, they start enacting the various Leelas of Krishna. We know that Krishna as a child had a number of exploits. He killed so many demons, he saved Braj from so many calamities. So you have the Kalya Daman, where the snake Kalya is killed. Then Giri Govardhan Dharan, when by lifting Mount Govardhan on his little finger, he saved Braj from the rains. Then there are so many other Leelas. For instance, when he is going to steal butter, that is also a very sweet story. So the gopis start enacting the various Leelas, and while enacting, their devotion is apparent. Krishna realizes that they are devoted to him, but maybe the pride was just momentary. He forgives them and comes back. Then the dance continues. It is a dance through which the gopis surrender themselves to the Lord, and through the love they reach the Supreme Being. This is Mathura Bhakti, when the love is not for the enjoyment of the love, it is not lust, but it is devotion. Now this is the story described in the Puranas and the Bhagavad. In Mathura and Vrindavan, even now, we have enactments of Raas Leela. Now, this Raas Leela is obviously performed by actors, dancers. Now, when did this originate? Scholars feel that this started sometime around the 16th century. In the medieval volume Rasa Sarvasya, it is stated that Swami Haridas, who was a follower of Vallabhacharya, sought permission from Vallabhacharya's son Vithalnath and began Rasa dance, or rather Raas Leela, and this was followed by Khamandi. Again, in another well-known volume, Bhaktamal, of this period, it is stated that Narayan Bhatt, a great devotee of Krishna and a great Vaishnava saint, was actually helped by a Kathak dancer who had come from the Mughal court. His name was Vallabh, sometimes referred to as Braja Vallabh, and Ras dance was initiated. Now, whatever controversy there might be, we know that from that time onwards, Raas Leela has been performed in Mathura and Vrindavan. There is generally a stage made of concrete and cement. It is about semicircular, and there are a number of dancers. Sometimes young men, or rather boys, play the roles of the gopis, and sometimes women also take part. Now, the Raasleela, as presented today, is in two parts. The first part is the Ras dance. The presentation begins with it. Before that, there is a Mangalacharan, Aarti, and then we have the Ras dance where the gopis and Krishna are dancing. Then in the second part, the Leelas are performed. Now, obviously, the idea of performing the Leelas came from the Purans, where it is said that the gopis performed stories about Krishna. But nowadays, there is a division, as if the Ras is in the first scene and then the next scenes deal with the various Leelas. Now, there are several Ras dances described in the Purans, and the Ras during the Sharat Purnima, which is generally the Kartik Purnima, which is also called the Ras Purnima nowadays even, is called the Maharas, because it is the supreme Ras in which finally the Bhakt or the devotee is united with the Lord. The Lord personally identifies himself and personally becomes one with the devotee. So that is why you have one gopi, one Krishna. Like each one has a Krishna to herself. Now, regarding this, some people might think that why is it that Krishna only goes to the gopis, why not to the men? Now, in Vaishnavite philosophy, Krishna is the supreme Purush or the supreme man, and every other being is Prakriti. So, in relationship to the Lord, even men are devotees. That is why Chaitanya Dev even saw himself as an image of Radha. Now, the actors who take part in the Raasleelas today are a part of a troupe. It is not that they have training in a very meticulous way, but because they are a part of a troupe, they are constantly performing and they know the dances. But the dances are not very polished as such. The makeup and costume is actually a copy of the makeup and costume of the local people of that area. So the women wear lengha and choli, and the men also wear dhotis and the costumes that are worn in that area. Of course, Sri Krishna is dressed as the original Sri Krishna with the yellow costume and the beautiful crown of peacock feathers. The language that is used in Raasleela is Brajabhasha. The songs, the lyrics, are usually taken from those written by the Vaishnavite poet saints of the 16th and 17th centuries. So you have the lyrics of the Ashtachhap Kavis, lyrics of Haridas, and these lyrics are very important to us Kathak dancers because the lyrics in themselves have descriptions of dance that resemble Kathak. Again, the sound syllables used during Kathak dance, like ta, thei, tat, tig, dha, dig, dig, are often mentioned in these lyrics. And even sounds of mridang, the mridang syllables are also mentioned. So, it is obvious that the lyricists knew Kathak dance, or knew meaning that perhaps they were not dancers, but they were aware of the techniques of Kathak dance. We can say more or less that the dance of Mathura and Braj in the Raasleelas is very close to Kathak. While Kathak has had a court milieu where very learned persons were a part of the audience, and the dancers too had rigorous training, their teachers were constantly innovating. So Kathak is a polished form, while the Raasleela, resembling that form, is more or less a less polished form, more or less a rustic form. Of course, not with the connotations of it being bad, but it is not the highly stylized form of dance that we find in Kathak presentations. Now, what has Kathak received from Raasleela? Well, Lucknow, Mathura-Vrindavan, these are all very close to each other geographically. So naturally, many Ras dancers from Braj and Mathura went to Lucknow and performed there. Again, the Lucknow dancers often came to see the Raasleelas. So there was a constant give and take between the dancers. We know that Nawab Wajid Ali Shah actually witnessed Raasleela performances, and it was these Raasleela performances that inspired him to write Rahas. While Kathak has been a solo dance form, Raasleela has always been a group dance presentation. But when we compare it to modern choreographic presentations of Kathak, we can say that it is a form which is not that highly stylized. Mostly the formations are either in the form of a circle, a mandal, or semicircular, or in two lines. But the use of a stage that we have in modern productions, where we are actually drawing various patterns on the stage, that is not there in Ras dance. Then certain movements like the pose of Gath is there. Then Krishna, Bansidhari, Krishna with the peacock feather on his crown. Then various gopis and their activities. First of all, the use of the ghungat. Then actions like going to fetch water. Now in Raasleela, actual earthenware pots and pitchers are used. But this is used in Kathak. So all these mudras dealing with ordinary actions of a village life, like churning butter, then going to fetch water, taking the water from the river, putting the pitcher on your head, then adorning yourself, and so on. Again, abstract dance movements are also sometimes common in Kathak as well as in Ras. You have the pheri or the chakkar, where you go round a pirouette. Then the ardha pheri or half turns, first to the left and then the right. Then the palta, again turns first to the right and then the left. Now we can say that Kathak has been influenced to a large extent by Raasleela. First of all, the ras, both the Madhura Bhakti ras or Shringar leading to devotion, is present in Kathak, and this has been influenced by the Raasleela. Then again, Vatsalya Ras, because during the Leelas you often have Yashoda and the gopis and their filial affection for Krishna. So the main mood has been influenced. Then again, actions like the daily activities of a village life. Then Naikas. From Ras, we have taken various types. First of all, the Mukta Naika, or she who is totally engrossed. Madhya Naika, who is engrossed but at the same time very conscious. Then other Naikas, like some who are trying to approach Krishna in a very obvious way, the Pragalbha. The young Naika, the old Naika, all these Naikas are present in a Ras dance. Then various stories from the Leela section are portrayed through Gat Bhavas. We have the Kaliya Daman Gat Bhava, we have the Makhan Chori Gat Bhava, we have the Giri Govardhan Leela Gat Bhava. Again, many of the songs that are used in Ras or in Raasleela are also used in Kathak. Now, obvious influences are those that we find in the case of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, where he directly saw a Raasleela performance and he started his rahas, which are the beginnings of the dance drama in Kathak. Then again, even from the Jaipur Gharana tradition, we have many dancers, for instance like Kanhuji, whose forefathers used to perform the Shiv Tandava, came to Vrindavan and learned the Lasya style, and so the Vrindavan style brought about grace in the Jaipur Gharana. Again, bowls, songs, even kavits like Vrindavan ki kunja kalin mein nachat kanhaiya tat tat thaiya. These bowls have also been formed under the influence of Ras. So we can say that these two types, especially the Lucknow Gharana, has been influenced more. We know of many Thumri writers who were writing under the influence of Madhur Ras, because as I have said that in Madhur Ras, love does not end in lust, it ends in devotion, complete surrender to one's Lord. Now this is also the theme of Thumris. Bindadin Maharaj in his bhajans and Thumris always shows this Madhur Ras, and naturally he was influenced by the Raasleela tradition. So geographical proximity began the give and take, and as I said earlier that perhaps one of the Mughal court Kathak dancers helped in the formation of the earlier Ras dances. Both these styles are very close to each other, they have influenced each other, and even now we find a lot of resemblance. But because Kathak has had a court milieu and many conscious artists and teachers have been associated with it, every action has been polished. But Raasleela is a rural presentation, it is full of joy, and the audience does not actually go to see an artistic presentation, they go to pray. For them, the characters are actual characters. Krishna is actually God Krishna. But in a Kathak presentation, because the audience is discerning, so the artist also has to be conscious in the presentation. But in Kathak today, when we think of the Panya Bharanagat or the Makhunchari Gat Bhava, we know that all these have come from Raas, because in the middle of the Lucknow Darbar, no one would think of going to fetch water. But these are beautiful actions which were taken from the Raas Leela presentations. They were stylized, polished, and presented before a discerning, educated audience. The influence of Raas on Kathak is present even today when we portray the various thumris of Bindadin Maharaj. We always think of the heroine as a village maiden. She goes with her little pitcher. She behaves in the fashion of a young villager. And all the Nayikas that we present today are obviously taken from the Raas Leela tradition and from the Raas as presented in our Purans. So think of the beauty of all these actions, of all the movements. Tat tat thei tig dha dig dig appear in so many lyrics that accompanied the Raas Leela traditions, and these lyrics are still used in Kathak today. In fact, Chatur Das wrote this beautiful lyric, Sakhiya Racho Raas Kadam ki Chhaiya, Yamuna ki tat nikata Nirakhata Sab Vilas, Murali Mathura-Dhuna Raasa Kari Sampurana, Pariyoga Shubha Dekhata Chatura Bhayo Hulas. So these shlokas, these kavitas are presented through Kathak, and we marvel at the beauty of this tradition and at the variety that Kathak has accepted. Because Kathak has accepted so many ideas and so many movements from various traditions, it has enriched itself. Raas is a beautiful presentation, and it is an integral part of the Kathak tradition. This is the Raas Kathak relationship. I wish you all the best. Namaste.